You know, folks, let me tell you something. They never told me this part. Nobody ever told me the truth about forgiveness. They talk about love, they talk about peace, they talk about moving on, all that nice stuff, but nobody talks about the real cost. Nobody talks about how hard it is when someone betrays you, lies to you, walks away, and then people say, just forgive, move on. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But it's not that simple. It's not that easy. And I learned that the hard way. I learned that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's power, real power. The kind they don't teach you in books. The kind you can't fake on TV. It's not about saying, I'm okay. It's about standing tall, looking at the pain and saying, you don't own me anymore. That's the truth nobody told me. Forgiveness doesn't set them free. It sets you free. And let me tell you something. When you finally do it, when you forgive the right way, you stop being a victim. You start being unstoppable. Because you're no longer driven by anger, hate, or revenge. You're driven by purpose. So stay with me, folks, because today I'm going to tell you exactly what no one else will tell you. The truth about forgiveness. The real, raw, powerful truth that changes everything. And once you hear it, you'll never see your past the same way again. Believe me, people get forgiveness all wrong. Believe me, they really do. They think it's about saying sorry, shaking hands, smiling for the cameras, pretending everything's perfect again. But that's not forgiveness. That's acting. That's public relations for the soul. I used to think like that too. That forgiving meant letting people off the hook, letting them win. But that's not how real life works. When someone hurts you, when they betray you, when they try to tear you down, you don't just snap your fingers and forget it. You feel it. You remember it. You live with it. And then they tell you, just forgive. Easy to say when you're not the one bleeding. Inside every person who's ever been hurt, there's a battle going on. You can't see it, but it's real. It's the war between pride and peace, between wanting justice and wanting freedom. When someone betrays you, humiliates you, or breaks your trust, something inside you hardens. You build walls, you armor up, and you tell yourself you'll never let that happen again. You replay what they did over and over because you want to make sense of it, maybe even get even. But that's where the real fight begins. Not with them, but with yourself. You're not just angry at them, you're angry at yourself for letting it happen. And that's the voice that doesn't stop talking. I've been there. You want to move on, but your pride says, don't you dare. They don't deserve it. And your heart says, let it go. It's like two forces pulling you apart. One wants to hold on because the pain feels like proof that it mattered. The other wants peace because you're tired of carrying it. And that tug of war can drain your energy, your focus, your joy. You can win every battle in life, money, success, power. But if you lose this inner one, you'll never feel free. The problem is, we think forgiveness means weakness. We think it's waving the white flag. But the truth is, the real victory comes when you stop fighting the wrong war. The war isn't about getting them back. It's about getting yourself back. It's about refusing to live as a prisoner of your past. Every time you choose anger over peace, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you relive the betrayal, you give it new life. People underestimate how hard this is. They look fine on the outside, smiling, shaking hands, going about their day, but inside they're still battling ghosts. That's why forgiveness feels like such a mountain to climb. It's not because you're weak, it's because you're human. The emotions are real, the pride is loud, and the pain doesn't just disappear because you say you're over it. Forgiveness takes courage, the kind that can silence pride and heal pain without needing revenge to feel whole. But let me tell you something powerful. Forgiveness doesn't mean weakness. Not even close. Weak people can't forgive. Weak people hold grudges because they don't know how to rise above. Real forgiveness, the kind that actually changes you, takes strength. Tremendous strength. You've got to face the pain, the humiliation, the anger, and look it in the eye. You've got to decide, I'm done letting this run my life. That's not surrender. That's leadership over your own emotions. It's the kind of leadership that nobody teaches, nobody talks about, but everyone needs. And the reason most people never get there is because they think forgiveness is there comes a moment when you realize something that changes everything. Forgiveness was never about them. It's about you. It's not about letting someone off the hook for what they did. It's about unhooking yourself from what they left behind. That moment when it hits you is like a storm clearing. You finally understand that holding on to anger doesn't punish them, it punishes you. You keep drinking the poison and waiting for them to suffer. But they've moved on. They're sleeping fine. They're living their life. And you're the one awake at 3 a.m., replaying the same scene over and over. That's when it dawns on you. You're not hurting them anymore. You're hurting yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means deciding that what happened won't control you anymore. You take that power back. You stop letting the pain write your story. You stop waiting for an apology that might never come. You stop giving energy to people who don't deserve a second more of your peace. It's not about being the bigger person for them. It's about being free for you. That's the turning point. The moment you say, I choose me. You see, when you've been wronged, the hardest thing is to accept that justice might never look the way you want it to. You might never hear, I'm sorry. You might never get closure. But forgiveness gives you something more powerful than revenge ever could: peace. That's what nobody tells you. It's not about fairness. It's about freedom. When you forgive, you stop needing their validation. You stop needing their guilt. You take back your story and rewrite it without their shadow in it. And the moment you do that, something shifts deep inside. You stop carrying their weight. You stop letting their actions dictate your emotions. The hurt doesn't disappear overnight, but it starts to lose its power. That's the real breakthrough. When you realize the situation may have broken your trust, but it doesn't have to break your spirit. You let go, not because they deserve peace, but because you finally deserve your own. There's a powerful shift that happens when you truly forgive, and it's not quiet, it's internal thunder. It's the moment when you realize you're no longer reacting to what someone did to you. You're responding to who you've become because of it. You stop being the person who was hurt, and you start being the person who grew. That's power, real power. Not the kind that comes from control or money, but the kind that comes from mastering your own emotions. When you forgive, you stop giving people the remote control to your mood, your energy, your peace. You take it back. You stop letting them push your buttons. They can talk, they can lie, they can disappear. But you stay calm. That's control. That's strength. Most people don't understand that forgiveness flips the balance of power. When you hold a grudge, you're still chained to them. They own a piece of your attention, your heart, your story. But when you forgive, you break that chain. Suddenly, you're not reacting to their choices anymore. You're creating your own. You stop living in response to pain and start living in pursuit of purpose. That's how winners operate. They don't get stuck in resentment. They rise above it. Forgiveness isn't about being soft. It's about being smart. It's a strategy for peace, for growth, for clarity. Because once you forgive, your mind clears, your focus sharpens, and your confidence rises. You're no longer wasting energy trying to prove anything. You already won. You chose peace over chaos. You chose wisdom over anger. You chose yourself over your past. That's what makes forgiveness so powerful. It turns pain into perspective. When you stop carrying the anger, you start carrying lessons. You start realizing that what was meant to break you actually built you. The people who hurt you became your teachers, even if they never meant to be. And suddenly, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what did this create in me? That's where transformation begins. You reclaim control not by changing what happened, but by changing how you respond to it. That's when forgiveness becomes your greatest strength, your ultimate power move, the thing that turns your story from victimhood into victory. When you finally reach the point of forgiveness, real forgiveness, something incredible happens. A kind of peace you can't fake, can't buy, and can't find anywhere else. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. It's like the noise in your mind finally turns down. The replay stops. The anger fades. You breathe differently. You walk lighter. You realize that the freedom you were chasing wasn't out there. It was always inside you, just buried under layers of pain, pride, and memory. Forgiveness digs it out, cleans it off, and hands it back to you. It's not weakness, it's liberation. There's a confidence that comes with it too. Because once you've faced that kind of pain and turned it into peace, you become unshakable. The things that used to trigger you don't anymore. The people who used to control your emotions lose their power. You can look at them, at the past, at every mistake, and feel nothing but understanding. Not approval, not forgetfulness. Understanding. You see it all clearly now. You see how every wound pushed you toward wisdom, how every betrayal taught you to protect your energy, how every ending made space for something new to begin. That's the freedom beyond forgiveness. Not just peace with others, but peace with yourself. People will wonder how you stay so calm, how you smile through things that once would have crushed you. It's because you're no longer living in reaction to your pain. You're living in connection to your purpose. Forgiveness gives you that. It's the bridge between what hurt you and what heals you. It's the moment when you realize that your story didn't stop at the heartbreak. It started there. That's where the strength was born. And the beauty of it all is that you no longer need closure from anyone. You've closed the chapter yourself. You've taken back every piece of yourself that was scattered in the past. You've stopped being defined by what happened and started being defined by how you overcame it. That's what freedom feels like. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of peace that no one can take away again. About the other person. It's not. It's about you. They think it's about saying, it's okay what you did. No, it's not okay. It was wrong. You know it. They know it. But you're not forgiving to make them feel better. You're forgiving because you refuse to let their mistake define your story. You're saying, you hurt me, but you don't own me. That's strength. That's victory. I've seen people carry resentment for years, decades even, like a badge of honor. But the truth is, that badge is heavy. It keeps you stuck, bitter, small. The world tells you forgiveness is soft. The truth is, it's one of the toughest things a person can ever do. Because when you forgive, you're not giving up, you're stepping up. You're taking your power back from people who never deserved to hold it in the first place.